Aliens discovered humanity's ancient weapons. Part 1. Commander Zyxthra of the Galactic Archaeological Survey floated in her environmental suit, 6 arms working different control panels as her ship approached the third planet of a small yellow star. The readings were impossible. According to their long-range scanners, this world should have been nothing more than another dead rock, maybe with some primitive microbes if they were lucky. Instead, their instruments were screaming about massive energy signatures buried deep beneath the surface. Impossible, muttered her second-in-command, Krelnoth, his crystalline body refracting the bridge lights into rainbow patterns. The thermal signatures suggest weapons technology, but the dating puts them at over 50,000 years old. No species develops that kind of power that early in their evolution. Zyxthra's tentacles curled with excitement. In her 300 years of archaeological work across the galaxy, she had never seen readings like these. The Galactic Council had strict rules about investigating primitive worlds, but, according to their databases, this system was completely uninhabited. Whatever civilization had built these weapons was long gone. "Take us into standard orbit," she commanded. "Begin deep geological scans. I want to know what we're dealing with down there." The planet below was beautiful in a wild, untamed way. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with large green and brown landmasses scattered between them. Swirling white clouds drifted across the atmosphere. It looked peaceful, almost garden-like. Nothing at all like the fortress worlds of the Krextai Empire or the battle-scarred planets of the Vorthan Republic. "Commander," called out her sensor operator, a nervous Flazarian whose scales kept changing color with anxiety. "I'm picking up massive underground complexes. They're everywhere. North America, Asia, Europe, Australia, whatever built these things, they covered the entire planet." The main screen lit up with a three-dimensional map of the planet's subsurface. Zyxthra's breath caught in her throat. The scope was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Vast underground networks stretched beneath every continent, connected by what appeared to be transit tunnels that ran under the oceans themselves. And the power readings. "By the 7 moons of Zirion," whispered Krelnoth. "Some of these installations are reading power outputs equivalent to a Star Destroyer's main cannon. But they're dormant. Everything's been shut down for thousands of years." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving automated signals from the surface. Very old technology, but still functional. It appears to be some kind of warning system. Put it through the universal translator." The bridge speakers crackled to life. The voice that emerged was unlike anything in their databases. It was smooth but carried an underlying hardness that made Zyxthra's skin crawl. "Unknown vessel, you are approaching a restricted solar system. This is an automated warning. The species inhabiting this world has been classified as extremely dangerous. For your own safety, maintain a distance of no less than 50 astronomical units. Any attempt to land or establish contact will be considered an act of war. This message will repeat." The bridge fell silent. Zyxthra stared at the peaceful world below, trying to reconcile what she was seeing with what she had just heard. "Run a bioscan," she ordered. "I want to know what's down there." The results came back within minutes, and they were even more confusing than the weapon readings. The planet teemed with life. Millions of species, from tiny microorganisms to massive creatures in the oceans. And, dominant among them all, bipedal mammals, reported the scanner operator. Approximately 7 billion individuals. They appear to be in a pre-space flight phase of development. Primitive technology by galactic standards. Their most advanced weapons appear to be chemical explosives and simple projectile launchers. "That makes no sense," Krelnoth protested. "The warning message talked about an extremely dangerous species, but these creatures are barely past the Stone Age compared to us. They don't even have energy weapons." Zyxthra studied the readings more carefully. Something was very wrong here. The automated warning system was clearly ancient, possibly predating the current inhabitants by tens of thousands of years. But, if that was the case, what had happened to the species that built those massive weapon installations? "Commander," the communications officer called out urgently, we're receiving another transmission. This one's different. It's coming from one of the underground installations. That's impossible. You said everything was dormant. It was, sir. But something just activated. The power readings in the North American complex are spiking. The new transmission was clearer than the first, and, when the translator processed it, ZYXthera felt a chill run through her entire body. Galactic Archaeological Survey Vessel, this is Site 7 Defense Command. We have been monitoring your scans of our installations. You are in violation of the quarantine protocols established by the Terran Defense Accord. You have 30 minutes to withdraw beyond the heliopause or defensive measures will be initiated. Krelnotha's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Terran? That's not in any of our linguistic databases. And, what's a defense accord? Sir, the sensor operator's voice was shaking now. I'm reading massive power spikes all over the planet. Whatever those installations are, they're waking up. On the main screen, thermal imaging showed the underground complexes coming to life. Huge blast doors were opening in mountainsides. Massive structures were rising from the ocean floors. And, beneath it all, power systems that had slept for millennia were rumbling back to consciousness. This is Commander ZYXthera of the Galactic Archaeological Survey, she transmitted back. We meant no harm. We thought this system was uninhabited. Our records show no spacefaring civilization in this region. The response came quickly, and the voice carried a tone that made her tentacles writhe with instinctive fear. Your records are incomplete. Humanity abandoned active space travel 50,000 years ago for reasons that are classified. The installations you have detected are automated defense systems designed to protect this world during our sabbatical. You have 25 minutes to comply with withdrawal orders. Humanity? ZYXthera had never heard the term before. I don't understand. The beings on your planet appear to be primitive. How can they be connected to technology that rivals our most advanced systems? There was a long pause before the response came. Primitive? Commander, I suggest you review your scan data more carefully. What you're seeing down here isn't the peak of our technology. It's what we've chosen to show the universe. The installations you've detected represent our defensive measures, not our offensive capabilities. The main screen suddenly lit up with new data. The planetary defense systems weren't just coming online, they were revealing themselves. What had appeared to be mountains were transforming into massive weapons platforms. Islands in the Pacific Ocean were rising to reveal orbital launch facilities. The aurora borealis over the northern polar region suddenly intensified, and their instruments detected the formation of some kind of planetary shield. By all the gods, whispered Krelnoth, this entire planet is one massive weapon. Commander, the human voice continued, you asked about our technology. Allow me to demonstrate something simple. One of the weapons platforms in what their computers identified as the Rocky Mountains fired a single pulse of energy. It wasn't aimed at their ship, instead, it struck a small asteroid that had been drifting in the outer system. The asteroid didn't just explode. It simply ceased to exist, along with a spherical area of space around it nearly a kilometer in diameter. That was set to approximately 1% power, the voice explained calmly. Our records indicate that your ship's shields are rated for standard galactic military equipment. They would not survive even that minimal demonstration. ZYXthera felt her hearts racing. In all her years of archaeological work, she had studied the ruins of dozens of civilizations. The most advanced races in galactic history, the Builders, the first ones, the Starshapers, even they had never demonstrated anything like what she was witnessing. Who are you? She whispered. We are human. We are the species that the Galactic Council has spent the last 50,000 years carefully avoiding. We are the reason that this system was marked as forbidden in your navigation databases, though it seems that information was lost or ignored. But, the beings on the surface, Krelnoth protested. They're driving primitive vehicles, living in simple structures. They don't even have faster-than-light travel. The human voice actually seemed amused. Those beings are us, Krelnoth. Humanity chose to return to a simpler way of life after we determined that our rapid technological advancement was making us lose touch with what made us human in the first place. The surface civilization you see is our choice, not our limit. You mean, ZYX said slowly, you deliberately abandoned advanced technology? We compartmentalized it. Every human on Earth knows the truth of our history and capabilities. They choose to live simple lives because they understand what the alternative cost us. But the knowledge remains. The weapons remain. The defenses remain. We are still very much capable of defending ourselves. On the screen, more installations were revealing themselves. ZYX realized that what she had taken for natural formations were actually camouflaged military structures. The planet wasn't just defended, it was a fortress that had been disguised as a garden world. 15 minutes, Commander, the voice said gently. I strongly advise you to begin your withdrawal. Wait, ZYX said desperately. The Galactic Council needs to know about this. Your species, you could revolutionize everything. Share your technology, join the galactic community. The pause this time was longer. Commander, 50,000 years ago, humanity tried to join the galactic community. We offered our knowledge, our friendship, our assistance. Do you know what happened? No. We were feared. Every species in the galaxy banded together to try to destroy us, convinced that our rapid technological development made us a threat to all life. They called it the Human Extinction Protocol. The war lasted 300 years. ZYX felt sick. That's not in any of our historical records. Of course not. The victors write the history books, Commander. Except in this case, there were no victors. When the Galactic Alliance finally reached Earth, they found it empty. Humanity had simply vanished. Your ancestors assumed they had won. But you're still here. We hid. For 50,000 years, we hid and we healed and we learned. We watched as the galaxy forgot about us, as our existence became myth, then legend, then nothing at all. We saw species rise and fall. We saw wars that could have been prevented with our knowledge, suffering that we could have ended. Then, why didn't you help? Because we learned something during those 300 years of war, Commander. We learned that the galaxy wasn't ready for what we had to offer. Perhaps it still isn't. The display showed their ship's position relative to Earth. They were still well within what humans apparently considered their defensive perimeter. 10 minutes, Commander. I'm afraid I must insist. ZYX looked around her bridge at her crew. They were all staring at her with the same expression of stunned disbelief. In the course of a single conversation, everything they thought they knew about galactic history had been turned upside down. The species that tried to destroy you 50,000 years ago, she said quietly. Are any of them still around? Some. The Krextai Empire are descendants of one of the primary alliance members. The Vorthan Republic as well. Many others have evolved or changed, but, yes, some of our old enemies are still part of your Galactic Council. And they have no idea you're still here? None at all. As far as they know, humanity is extinct and Earth is a forbidden archaeological site too dangerous to approach. We've worked very hard to maintain that illusion. ZYX made a decision that she knew would change everything. I won't tell them, she said. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Why not, Commander? Because, she said, looking at the beautiful blue world below, I'm an archaeologist. I study dead civilizations. I've seen what war does, what fear does, what happens when species can't find common ground. I've spent my life digging through the ruins of worlds that destroyed themselves. She paused, watching the aurora displays dancing around Earth's magnetic field. If humanity survived the greatest war in galactic history and chose peace over revenge, chose simplicity over dominance, chose to hide rather than conquer, then maybe the galaxy still has something to learn from you. Commander, Krelnoth whispered urgently, we have orders. The Galactic Council has a right to know about this. No, ZYX said firmly. They lost that right 50,000 years ago when they tried to commit genocide.
Commander. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Call me Director Zhang.
Director Zhang, I give you my word as an officer of the Archaeological Survey that this discovery will remain classified.
But, I have to ask, why reveal yourselves to us at all?
You could have let us scan and leave. We would have detected the installations but assumed they were ruins.
Because, Commander ZYXthera, you're not the first archaeological team to find us in recent years.
Others have come, from different species, different organizations. Some have been more persistent in their investigations.
The time of hiding may be coming to an end whether we choose it or not.
The implications hit her like a physical blow. If other survey teams had found evidence of the installations, if word was spreading through archaeological channels.
The secret's getting out.
Yes.
And, when it does, humanity will have to make a choice. Do we remain hidden and risk someone eventually breaking through our defenses to claim our technology? Or do we emerge on our own terms?
What will you choose?
That remains to be seen.
But, Commander, when that day comes, and it may come sooner than any of us would like, the galaxy will need voices of reason.
People who understand that advanced technology doesn't automatically make a species evil. People who can help mediate between humanity and a galaxy that still remembers the old fears. ZYXthera understood. You want allies. We want friends. We've been alone for 50,000 years, Commander. We've healed, we've grown, we've learned to be better than we were. But, we're still human.
We still need connection, community, purpose beyond just survival. Looking at her crew, ZYXthera saw the same mix of fear and wonder that she felt. They had come looking for archaeological artifacts and, instead, found a living legend. A species that had transcended the normal path of galactic development and chosen something unprecedented.
5 minutes, Commander.
We're withdrawing now, she said, signaling her helmsman to take them out of the system.
Director Zhang, will we ever speak again?
Perhaps. If you're serious about being a friend to humanity, there may come a time when we need your voice in the Galactic Council.
When that time comes, you'll know. As their ship accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, ZYXthera watched Earth shrink to a point of blue light.
Behind them, the massive defense installations were powering down, returning to their millennial slumber. The aurora displays faded back to normal levels. Within hours, the system would look exactly as it had when they arrived, peaceful, primitive, unremarkable. But, now she knew the truth. Humanity was still out there, still watching, still waiting. And, someday, the galaxy would have to face the consequences of its ancient mistake. #Aliens discovered humanity's ancient weapons, Part 2. 3 months after her encounter with Earth, Commander ZYXthera found herself in the most uncomfortable position of her career. She sat in the sterile conference room aboard the Galactic Council station, surrounded by some of the most powerful beings in known space, lying through her teeth.
The Sol system shows clear evidence of ancient technological installations, she reported to the assembled council members, but they appear to be completely inactive.
Dead for at least 50,000 years, possibly longer. The current inhabitants are primitive mammals in early industrial development.
No threat to galactic security.
High Counselor Vrektelone, a massive Krextai whose chitinous armor gleamed under the conference room lights, leaned forward with interest.
And, the energy signatures that triggered the investigation? Residual emissions from decaying power cores, ZYXthera replied smoothly.
The original builders, whoever they were, used some form of quantum containment technology. Even in decay, it produces significant radiation. She watched carefully as the various council members processed this information. The Vorthans looked relieved, they had been the most vocal about the potential threat when the initial reports came in. The Crystal and Veltar seemed disappointed, they were always hoping for new technology to study. But, it was the Krextai reactions that worried her most. Vrektelone's mandibles clicked thoughtfully.
These installations, were you able to determine their original purpose? From the little we could scan without damaging the sites?
They appear to be defensive in nature. Possibly built by a civilization facing extinction.
ZYX chose her words carefully. The layout suggests they were designed to protect the planet from orbital bombardment. Fascinating, murmured Counselor Shelvash, a Vorthan whose bioluminescent patches pulsed with curiosity.
To build such extensive defenses suggests they faced a significant threat.
Do we have any records of what might have caused their extinction? This was the question ZYX had been dreading. Unknown.
It's possible they were victims of the same plague that wiped out several civilizations in that galactic region around 50,000 years ago.
It wasn't entirely a lie.
There had been a plague, the plague of war that had consumed dozens of worlds during the human extinction protocol. But, the Council's own historical records had been sanitized over the millennia, edited to remove the more embarrassing details of their ancestors' attempted genocide.
Vrektalon's massive head tilted.
I would like to assign a Krextai archaeological team to investigate these ruins further.
Such advanced defensive technology could prove educational. ZYX felt her heart skip a beat.
This was exactly what Director Zhang had warned her about.
High Counselor, with respect, the installations are extremely unstable.
My team barely escaped when one of the power cores began to fluctuate. I would strongly advise against any further investigation until we can develop better containment protocols. All the more reason to understand the technology, Vrektalon insisted.
The Krextai have extensive experience with dangerous archaeological sites.
We've successfully excavated builder ruins on 17 different worlds.
This is different, ZYX said urgently. The quantum decay process is unlike anything we've encountered.
If those power cores fully destabilize, the explosion could sterilize half the solar system. She was improvising now, but the fear in her voice was real. If a Krextai excavation team reached Earth, they would discover the truth within days. And, unlike her peaceful archaeological survey, the Krextai approach to dangerous discoveries was typically to shoot first and ask questions later. The debate continued for 2 hours. Various council members proposed different approaches to the Sol system, ranging from complete quarantine to full-scale scientific investigation. ZYX deflected as many as she could, but she could see the tide turning against her. Too many species were interested in the potential technology for her warnings to hold them back indefinitely. Finally, High Counselor Vrektalon called for a formal vote. All in favor of establishing a restricted archaeological zone around the Sol system, with investigation limited to certified Galactic Council teams using appropriate safety protocols? 8 hands, claws, and tentacles rose around the table. The motion carried. Commander ZYX Vrektalon continued, given your team's initial survey, you will coordinate with the assigned investigation groups. I want a full report on these installations within 6 months. As the council session ended and the various delegates filed out, ZYX remained in her seat, staring out the massive viewport at the swirling nebula beyond the station. She had bought humanity some time, but not much. In 6 months, the galaxy's attention would turn toward Earth with an intensity that would be impossible to deflect.
Commander? Krelnoth had remained behind with her. What are we going to do?
I don't know, she admitted.
But we need to warn them. The return trip to Earth took 2 weeks. This time, ZYX didn't bother with archaeological pretenses. She transmitted directly to the hidden installation in North America as soon as they entered the solar system. Director Zhang, this is Commander ZYX. We need to talk.
The response came within minutes.
Welcome back, Commander. I was wondering when you'd return.
Please proceed to coordinates 39.7392 north, 104.9903 west.
You'll find a landing area there.
The coordinates led them to what appeared to be an ordinary meadow in the Rocky Mountains.
As their shuttle descended, however, the ground opened to reveal a sophisticated landing bay. They were guided down by tractor beams more advanced than anything in the galactic fleet.
Director Zhang was waiting for them when they disembarked. He was surprisingly ordinary-looking, a human male in his apparent middle years, wearing simple clothes that could have come from any of a dozen pre-industrial cultures. But his eyes held a depth that spoke of knowledge far beyond his apparent age.
Commander, Krelnoth, welcome to Site 7. I'm afraid we have much to discuss. He led them through corridors that defied their understanding of physics. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of programmable matter that shifted and flowed as they walked. Gravity felt normal despite the fact that they were clearly traveling both horizontally and vertically through the mountain. Your technology, Krelnoth whispered in amazement, it's beyond anything in our databases. As I mentioned before, Director Zhang replied casually, what you detected from orbit represents our defensive capabilities, not our scientific achievements. We've had 50,000 years to develop without the distractions of galactic politics. They emerged into a vast chamber that took HFY's breath away. It was part command center, part laboratory, part garden. Holographic displays showed real-time information from across the galaxy, star maps, political movements, technological developments, even economic trends. And, overseeing it all were humans who looked just as ordinary as Director Zhang. You're monitoring everything, HFY realized. Of course. Just because we chose to withdraw from galactic affairs doesn't mean we stopped caring about what happens out there. We've prevented 17 major wars in the last 10,000 years, guided the development of 14 different species through careful technology transfers, and helped coordinate disaster relief for countless natural catastrophes. But, how? Nobody knows you exist. Director Zhang smiled. Anonymous donations. Convenient technological discoveries. Mysterious warnings about impending disasters. The galaxy has dozens of legends about helpful spirits and guardian angels. Most of them trace back to us. He gestured for them to sit at a conference table that materialized out of the floor. Around them, a holographic display shifted to show images from the Galactic Council station. We monitored your council session, Commander. You did well, but 6 months isn't much time. You were listening in on a classified Galactic Council meeting? HFY was shocked despite everything else she had learned. HFY, we've had monitoring stations throughout Council space for 40,000 years. Very little happens in galactic politics without our knowledge. That's how we've been able to help prevent wars. We see the tensions building long before they reach crisis points. Krelnoth leaned forward, his crystalline form refracting the holographic light into rainbow patterns. If you have that kind of surveillance capability, why not reveal yourselves? You could guide the galaxy openly instead of hiding in shadows. Because the moment we reveal ourselves, everything changes. The galaxy has spent 50 millennia developing its own political, technological, and cultural path. Our sudden reappearance would disrupt everything. Some species would worship us. Others would fear us. Most would try to use us to gain advantage over their neighbors. Director Zhang gestured, and the holographic displays showed historical conflicts across the galaxy. We've seen it before, on smaller scales. When a significantly advanced species makes contact with less developed ones, the results are rarely positive for anyone involved. But, you made contact with us, HFY pointed out. Because you forced the issue. And, because we've been monitoring your career for several years. You're one of the few archaeologists in the galaxy who studies dead civilizations to learn from their mistakes rather than to claim their technology. We hoped you would understand the implications of our situation. The chamber around them dimmed slightly, and new displays appeared showing detailed schematics of some kind of massive space station. Unfortunately, the Krextai have been more persistent in their investigations than we anticipated. They've detected gravitational anomalies in this system that suggest the presence of cloaked installations. They're planning to send a full battle fleet here within 3 months, ostensibly for archaeological protection but actually to claim whatever technology they can find. HFY felt cold. A battle fleet? How many ships? 47 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. Enough firepower to crack a planet if they decide the installations pose a threat. And, if they discover the truth about humanity? Director Zhang was quiet for a long moment. Then, we'll be forced to defend ourselves. And, HFY, after 50,000 years of preparation, our defensive capabilities have advanced considerably beyond what you witnessed during your first visit.
On the displays around them, images flashed of weapons that boggled the mind.
Devices that could manipulate spacetime itself. Energy projectors that drew power directly from dimensional rifts. Defensive systems that existed partially outside normal reality. "My God," Krelnoth whispered. "You could destroy the entire galactic civilization." "We could remake it," Director Zhang corrected quietly. "We could reshape the fundamental laws of physics in this region of space. We could move stars, create artificial galaxies, transcend the normal limitations of matter and energy." He paused. "We choose not to." "Why not?"
"Because power like that corrupts. Because the moment you start reshaping reality to match your vision, you stop being human. Because 50,000 years ago, we were heading down that exact path, and it nearly destroyed us." Director Zhang stood and walked to one of the displays. The original human empire controlled 17 galaxies and had technology that could create and destroy universes on a whim.
We were gods, essentially.
And, like all gods, we started to lose touch with the mortals we claimed to protect.
What happened?
We turned on each other.
Human factions fought wars that shattered spacetime itself. We created weapons that ate reality.
We built machines that could think entire species out of existence. In the end, the galaxy united against us not because they feared what we might do to them, but because they were terrified of what we were doing to ourselves. The historical display showed images that hurt to look at directly, battles fought across multiple dimensions, weapons that existed outside the normal flow of causality, entire star systems simply ceasing to exist as if they had never been. "The war with the galaxy was actually a relief," Director Zhang continued. "It gave us a common external enemy, something to unite human factions that had been ready to tear each other apart. But when we won, and we did win, completely and decisively, we realized that we had become something monstrous."
"So you chose to hide." "We chose to remember what it meant to be human.
We distributed ourselves across this single world, sealed away most of our advanced technology, and started over. It took us 10,000 years to find our way back to ourselves. Another 40,000 to build a society that could maintain advanced technology without being consumed by it."
ZYX looked around the chamber with new understanding.
The humans she saw weren't just operators and technicians, they were philosophers, artists, farmers, teachers. People who had chosen to remain fundamentally human despite having the power of gods at their fingertips.
"And now the galaxy is coming back," she said.
"Yes.
And, when they arrive, we'll have to choose. Do we reveal ourselves and risk everything we've built? Do we defend ourselves and become the monsters they think we are? Or what?"
Director Zhang turned back to them with an expression that was both hopeful and terrified. "Or we trust that the galaxy has grown enough in the last 50,000 years to accept us as we truly are. Not as gods or demons, but as people who made terrible mistakes and spent 50 millennia learning to be better." The weight of that choice hung in the air around them. ZYX realized that she was witnessing history in the making, the moment when humanity would have to decide whether to trust the galaxy that had once tried to destroy them. "What do you need from us?" she asked.
"Time," Director Zhang said simply. "And, when the time comes, we'll need advocates. People who can help the galaxy understand what they're truly dealing with. People who can speak for the fact that we're not the same species that once nearly broke reality itself. You want us to vouch for you. We want you to help us come home."
#Aliens discovered humanity's ancient weapons, Part 3. The Krextai fleet arrived ahead of schedule.
ZYX was in her quarters aboard the archaeological research station when the proximity alarms began blaring. Through her viewport, she watched 47 warships drop out of hyperspace in perfect formation around Earth's solar system.
The massive dreadnoughts positioned themselves at strategic points while smaller vessels began deploying sensor grids and defensive platforms. "All archaeological personnel," Admiral Krixmatha's voice echoed through the station's communication system, "you will remain aboard your designated vessels until the system has been secured. Any attempt to approach the installations without military escort will be considered a hostile act."
ZYX felt her stomach drop.
This wasn't an archaeological mission anymore, it was an invasion. Her communicator chimed with an incoming message on a frequency that shouldn't have existed. Director Shang's voice was calm but carried an undertone that made her tentacles curl with anxiety. "Commander, I trust you can see our visitors have arrived. We're implementing Protocol 7 in approximately 6 hours. I wanted to give you advance warning." "Protocol 7, she whispered back, hoping the Krextai monitoring systems wouldn't detect the transmission.
"The end of hiding. One way or another, humanity will reveal itself today.
The question is whether it will be as friends or as the monsters the galaxy remembers."
Before she could respond, the transmission cut off.
Around her, the space station's sensors were going crazy as they tried to track energy signatures that kept appearing and disappearing across the solar system.
Whatever humanity was doing, they were moving fast.
On the bridge of the Krextai flagship, Admiral Krixmoth studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. His ship's sensors were among the most advanced in the galaxy, but they kept reporting impossible readings from the third planet. "Explain this to me again," he demanded of his science officer. "Sir, the energy emissions are increasing exponentially. What appeared to be dormant ruins 6 months ago now read as active military installations with power outputs exceeding our own fleet's capabilities."
"That's impossible. Our intelligence indicated the installations were dead."
"Perhaps they were, sir.
But they're not dead now." Admiral Krixmoth was a veteran of 17 major conflicts.
He had fought the Vorthan Republic, subdued 3 separate rebel systems, and personally led the bombardment that ended the Zalarian uprising. But he had never seen readings like this. "Sir," his communications officer called out urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet.
Audio and visual. Put it through."
The main screen flickered to life, showing a human face. Admiral Krixmoth had seen images of the primitive inhabitants during the mission briefing, but this individual was different. There was an intelligence in his eyes that spoke of knowledge far beyond anything a pre-space civilization should possess.
"Admiral Krixmoth of the Krextai 4th Fleet," the human said, "welcome to the Sol System. I am Director Zhang, representing the Terran Defense Network. We need to talk." Krixmoth's mandibles clicked with amusement.
"Primitive creature, you are addressing the commander of a Galactic Council military operation.
Return to your mudball planet before I decide you represent a contamination risk." "Admiral, I understand your position.
But before you make any irrevocable decisions, I want to show you something." The view screen split, displaying both the human's face and a tactical overlay of the solar system.
As Krixmoth watched, energy signatures began appearing throughout space around his fleet. Not weapon locks, something far more sophisticated.
His ships were being scanned by technology that made their own sensors look like primitive optical telescopes. "What you're seeing," Director Zhang continued conversationally, "is a comprehensive analysis of your fleet's capabilities. Weapons, shields, armor, even the psychological profiles of your senior officers. We've been monitoring Krextai military technology for quite some time."
"Impossible," Krixmoth snarled.
"Our ships are equipped with the most advanced counter-surveillance systems in the galaxy."
"Yes, we know. We helped design them." The tactical display shifted, showing detailed schematics of Krextai vessel construction.
Not just the ships currently in the system, but classified designs that shouldn't have existed outside of the highest security installations in Krextai space. 23 years ago, Zhang explained, your military was struggling with quantum shielding harmonics.
A brilliant young engineer named Velkothan mysteriously discovered the solution in an ancient databank. That engineer was your current fleet admiral, wasn't he? Krixmoth felt his carapace go cold.
The quantum shielding breakthrough had been the foundation of modern Krextai military superiority. And Velkothan's discovery had launched his career to the highest levels of command.
How do you know about that? Because we provided the information.
Through carefully orchestrated discoveries and archaeological finds, humanity has been guiding galactic military development for thousands of years. Not to make you stronger, Admiral, but to make sure we understood your capabilities.
On the bridge around him, Krixmoth could see his officers exchanging worried glances.
The implications of what the human was saying were staggering.
You're claiming your primitive species has been manipulating galactic civilization? Primitive? Zhang actually smiled. Admiral, would you like to see what primitive looks like?
The space around the Krextai fleet suddenly filled with ships. They didn't decloak or drop out of hyperspace, they simply appeared, as if reality had been rewritten to accommodate their presence. Sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around themselves, their hulls reflecting stars that weren't visible from this angle.
And there were hundreds of them. By the seven hells, whispered Crixmotha's tactical officer.
Sir, those ships, they're not showing up on any of our sensors except visual. Because they exist partially outside normal spacetime, Zhang explained helpfully. A useful trick we developed about 30,000 years ago. It makes them functionally immune to most conventional weapons.
Admiral Crixmoth was a pragmatist. He had survived 17 major conflicts by knowing when he was outclassed.
But his pride as a Krextai warrior demanded that he test these claims.
All vessels, he commanded, target the nearest enemy ship.
Prepare to fire on my command. Admiral, Zhang's voice carried a note of genuine sadness, please don't do this.
We don't want to hurt anyone. Fire.
The Krextai fleet unleashed a coordinated barrage that could have sterilized a moon. Plasma bolts, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes filled the space between the fleets. For a moment, the entire solar system blazed with destructive energy. When the light faded, the human ships were unchanged. The weapons had passed through them like they were ghosts.
Phase variance technology, Zhang explained gently. Your weapons exist in normal spacetime. Our ships currently don't.
Admiral, we're trying very hard to handle this situation peacefully, but you're making it difficult.
Crixmoth stared at the tactical display in disbelief.
His fleet's weapons that could crack planets, had been completely ineffective.
What are you? We're human, Admiral.
We're the species your ancestors tried to exterminate 50,000 years ago.
We're the civilization that the Galactic Council has spent millennia trying to forget. And we're the friends you never knew you had. The implications hit Crixmoth like a physical blow. The legends.
The old stories about the human war that no one talked about anymore. The ancient warnings in the Krextai military archives about a species that had transcended normal understanding of physics.
You're them. The humans. But the records say you were destroyed. The records say what your ancestors needed them to say. We chose to disappear rather than continue a war that was turning us into monsters. We've spent 50,000 years learning to be better than we were.
Around the Krextai fleet, the human ships began moving in patterns that defied physics.
Some folded space to teleport instantly across the solar system. Others seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. A few simply faded out of normal reality entirely.
This is just a small demonstration of our current capabilities, Zhang continued.
We could disable your entire fleet without harming a single person aboard. We could transport you all back to Krextai space before you finished blinking. We could rewrite the quantum signatures of your weapons so they would only function as harmless light shows. Then, why don't you? Because we're not the same species that once made the galaxy tremble, Admiral. We've learned the value of choice, of consent, of allowing others to determine their own destiny. We won't force you to accept us. The tactical display shifted again, showing something that made Crixmotha's breath catch in his throat.
It was Earth, but not as his sensors had been showing it. The entire planet was revealed as a massive construct, its continents carefully shaped, its oceans precisely positioned. The aurora displays weren't natural phenomena, they were part of a planetary defense grid that could probably stop a supernova.
Your entire world is artificial? Reconstructed, yes.
The original Earth was heavily damaged during the ancient war. We rebuilt it from the core outward, designed specifically to look natural while serving as the control center for our defensive network.
Zhang's expression grew more serious. But, Admiral, we don't want to be the galaxy's guardians anymore.
We don't want to hide and watch and intervene from the shadows.
We want to come home. We want to rejoin the galactic community as partners, not as rulers or protectors. The Council will never accept you. The Krextai Empire will never bow to humans. We're not asking you to bow, Admiral. We're asking you to stand beside us as equals. We're offering to share our knowledge, our resources, our friendship. All we want in return is the chance to be part of something greater than ourselves again. Crixmoth looked around his bridge at his officers. These were veteran warriors, beings who had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Now they looked terrified and amazed in equal measure. What about our archaeological mission? The installations we were supposed to investigate? You're welcome to investigate them, Admiral. But now you'll do so with full knowledge of what you're studying. These are human defensive systems, built to protect a world that chose peace over war. Study them, learn from them, understand them. But understand what they represent, not weapons of conquest, but tools of protection. The communication channel fell silent for several minutes as Crixmoth wrestled with the implications of what he had learned. His entire understanding of galactic history had been turned upside down. The most dangerous species in the galaxy's past was offering friendship to the children of their former enemies. Director Zhang, he said finally, what happens now? That depends on you, Admiral. You can return to the Galactic Council and report that humanity is extinct and the installations are too dangerous to investigate. You can maintain the status quo for another few thousand years. Or you can help us figure out how to announce humanity's return to the galaxy in a way that doesn't cause panic, war, or political collapse. You can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Admiral Crixmoth made a decision that would change galactic history. I want to meet with you in person. Face to face. If humanity is truly offering partnership to the galaxy, then the Krextai Empire will listen. Then, welcome to Earth, Admiral. We have a lot to discuss. As the first Krextai shuttle prepared to depart for the surface, ZYXthera watched from her research station and realized that everything was about to change. Humanity was coming home, and the galaxy would never be the same.